Are nurses particularly good in bed? Welcome to the mini-series of 5 nurse stereotypes. And today's topic is a spicy one. So for this stereotype, there is no science backing this up. And of course, it's going to vary person to person, and none of this will apply to absolutely every nurse out there. There's 4 million nurses out there, so in the US alone. So I knew that for this one, I was going to have to go scrub Reddit. And there is a lot of talk about how nurses are particularly open when it comes to sexual experiences. Now, I think the typical stereotype is that we all work in hospitals that resemble Grey's Anatomy, where everybody's sleeping with each other, and that is definitely not true. It might be true for some units, it depends on the culture, but I think generally it's much more mild than that, and much more sneaky than that. I definitely do think that there's a lot of drama in that, married people are sleeping with other people at work, things like that. I've actually even witnessed something like this myself. However, the stereotype of nurses being good in bed, I think particularly stems from the fact that we see so much death and so much horrific stuff at work that you, outside of work, want to experience everything that life has to offer. This is actually how a lot of us approach coping. We can talk all day about whether this is healthy or not. A lot of it leads to very risky behavior, and I think it does tend to tiptoe the line. On Reddit, the comment that I have seen over and over again is that the nurse significant other has just a really high sex drive. And again, this does not apply to every nurse out there, but it is something that has been mentioned enough that it could have some relevance. The amount that nurses work and the stress that we experience at work could translate for some people into a certain amount of sexual deviance. So what I've also seen on Reddit is that people say that nurses are really freaky. And again, not a stereotype that you can prove or disprove, just kind of interesting to talk about. Now, just a disclaimer that none of this applies to patient care. I am strictly talking about personal lives and, stereotypes outside of the workplace. I'm only talking about consensual, appropriate relationships. Now, I can make a separate video about nurse fetishes if you want and go through the history of how that came about and how that affects us today. I think the nurse fetish also plays a role in this stereotype particularly. I think there are certain people that want to think that nurses have a higher sex drive for malevolent reasons. As always, let me know what you think about this stereotype. Tomorrow, I'm coming back with the last and final stereotype. Nurses just wish that they were doctors. As always, thank you for listening.